Meet Annie.
Happy 22nd, Annie.
She's 22 years old. She's been a stray, a college roommate, cross-country traveler, and for the last 2 decades, the undisputed monarch of a house she calls Shady Pines. She has survived 9 lives worth of chaos, trained a small army of humans, and become internet royalty along the way, all without ever once saying thank you.
Happy birthday, dear Annie. Happy birthday to you.
Annie's story starts in 2004 in a college town. She was a scrawny little stray, but with the confidence of a queen, she wandered up to a group of students and decided, without asking anyone's permission, that she now lived there. She crashed the pre-game parties, she stole a boa, and she helped herself to somebody's makeup brushes. She also claimed the bed as hers before anyone had time to protest. And from that very first night, she made one thing clear: she was not a guest. She was a manager. Her management style hasn't changed in 22 years. What has changed is the empire. Annie went from college mascot to grad school companion to the reigning queen of a household now known as Shady Pines. She went through a cross-country move and watched roommates come and go, sticking to the one human she chose 2 decades ago and growing into a senior citizen with a huge attitude.
Is that what you have to say for yourself after also waking us up this morning early?
For a while, she shared her throne with a cat named Humphrey, her owner's self-described soul cat. Annie was not impressed by him. She tolerated him, mostly because he was generous with his treats, which in Annie's economy counts as diplomacy. But when Humphrey passed away, she wasn't immune to the loss. Annie's appetite changed and her sass dimmed. Just slightly, and just for a while, but it showed that she wasn't nearly as indifferent toward the brother who had spent years stealing the spotlight from Her Majesty. But true to form, she came back to herself, because a queen does not stay off her throne for long. Somewhere along the way, on a friend's suggestion, Annie's mom started an Instagram account for her elderly cat. Nobody expected much, but today, 2 years later, tens of thousands of followers check in daily for updates from Annie's palace, and Shady Pines has become a full-blown institution. Annie has been informed of her stardom. She yawned and remained completely unbothered by her own fame.
Annie, what do you want to say to your new friends?
Annie wears her age like a crown rather than a burden. She has passed every vet checkup with flying colors. If you ask her, she doesn't even need those irritating health checks that interrupt her regal routine. But a monarch's health is important and must be taken care of, so as much as she hates vet visits, they still have to be done. Of course, a clean bill of health for a senior cat doesn't mean everything is absolutely perfect, but every issue she has is a normal part of growing older. Her once bright eyes have darkened with time, a harmless condition called melanosis that comes with age. Several people have joked online that she looks like she's pulling them into her void. She'll tell you she's perfectly fine with that. When you've been ruling the household for this long, you don't need perfect eyesight to keep your subjects under control. Her hearing has faded too. She simply doesn't need it. When you're the one giving the orders, you don't have to listen. Behind the humor, there's real care holding it all together. Bedside steps help her arthritis so jumping doesn't take a toll. Though every so often, just to prove a point, she still jumps anyway. A water fountain keeps her hydrated. A self-cleaning litter box sits close to her bed because senior bladders don't run on the same schedule they used to. And there's a heated bed, her personal throne, where she now spends most of her days in what can only be described as retirement from the hustle of being a cat. No toys. Barely any zoomies, just pure, unbothered luxury, including breakfast in bed. Not that the zoomies are entirely gone. Every so often, Usually when nobody expects it, a burst of energy comes out of nowhere, and this supposedly fragile 22-year-old runs through the house as if she's rushing to an important meeting. It never lasts long, but it never fails to remind everyone in the room exactly who they're dealing with. She also often comes downstairs to demand her favorite treats. Churu and greenies rank among Annie's top 3 favorite things, and she always gets what she wants, even if it means making the trip downstairs or putting her human through lengthy negotiations.
Annie, I can't give you another snack. I'm sorry. You already had some greenies. Yeah, I'm sorry. Would you maybe one more? Okay, you get one more. Yeah.
Annie's mom has learned that loving a senior cat means feeling like you're losing precious time every time you have to leave. Work trips, especially long ones abroad, have never gotten easier, even with a dedicated pet sitter who dotes on Annie like the royalty she believes herself to be. There have been food strikes timed perfectly for maximum guilt. There have been long stretches spent apart, bridged only by daily photos and updates. And there has always been a joyful, chaotic reunion waiting at the end. One enthusiastic meow, a temporary ceasefire on sassiness, and a night of cuddling that makes the distance worth it. On July 4th, Annie turned 22. Every July 4th, the palace throws a party. There's cake made of things cats are actually allowed to eat, a small gathering of friends who've come to celebrate right alongside her, and this year, an audience of thousands more watching from afar. She poses, she eats her grass, she takes her tuna broth like a shot. And true to tradition, at the end of it all, she has no notes. 22 years is an extraordinary amount of time for any cat, let alone one who started life as a stray with nowhere to go. But Annie never seemed to think of herself as lucky to have found a home. From the very first night, she carried herself like the home was the lucky one. 2 decades later, nothing about that has changed. She's still the queen, still adored, and still running the whole show.
Hey girl, what's going on? What's going on?